Hey everybody, this is a special heads up for some of our U.S. listeners. Everyone else out there in the world, we love you. Please hang tight. I promise this will be quick. Did you guys know that there are actually a bunch of elections coming up this November 7th? And that's like just in a few days, probably after this podcast drops. So not everywhere, but much more than usual in an off year. If you typically skip these, you're in good company, I'm afraid. I almost always skip them, and almost everyone I know who's my age pretty much does too. But you know who always shows up for off-year elections? Old people. Now, look, I love old people. They're great. They're always stocked with the hard candy and whatnot, but old people really don't care about the things you do, I'm willing to bet. So you really won't want to give them the sole power to decide these local elections, because local elections actually matter. You can look up the particulars if you want, or you can just trust me when I tell you that the boring local elections end up deciding stuff like who gets to vote in the exciting elections, and where they get to vote, and whether those votes will actually have any meaningful impact on the results. So if you live in Utah, in the 3rd Congressional District, there's a special House election on November 7th. In the great state of New Jersey, we're having on November 7th election for governor and for the certain seats in the state legislature. In Virginia, there's another governor's race, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and state legislature seats. In New York City, there's an election for mayor on November 7th, and city council and other municipal offices. And in Atlanta, Georgia, there's also a mayoral election. Atlanta's a major city, and who runs it really does matter. So please give a hoot, go out there and vote, do the right thing. I'm counting on you guys.
Hello and welcome to episode 74 of HardcoreGaming101.net's top 47,858 games of all time podcast, where we objectively, definitively, and scientifically rank the games you nominate. My name is Carl, and our friend Xerxes is still up there a week later, and I'm thinking of sending one of my co-hosts, either Gunheart or Bobinator, up there to check on him. If you want me to send Gunheart, vote 1 on Twitter. If you want me to send Bobinator, vote 2 on Twitter. We look forward to hearing from you in the coming weeks. My panelists today are...
I'm Bobinator.
The Gunheart.
And on this podcast we have 3 rules. Rule number 1, all rankings are final, official, and scientifically accurate. Rule number 2, you can nominate one game for their 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. We've stopped accepting nominations via Twitter for the foreseeable future. Rule number 3, you can nominate games that have already been nominated, but don't nominate games we've already ranked. You can see the master list for yourself. Check out bit.ly/47kgames. And I believe that list has been updated, hasn't it? We now have better sorting of what games have been ranked and which ones have been listed. I think our editor went through and cleaned them up, so you get a bit more detail about how games have been nominated.
We should be able to get around to people who still need to do their turn. That should really help with that.
So we're trying to do that, so stick with us there. And our next game is Neverending Nightmares. It was nominated by Atlantean Goldfish, developed by Infinitap Games, and published by Infinitap Games. It was released on the PC, and the earliest known release date we have is September 26th, 2014, worldwide-ish. It was released on Steam, which is basically worldwide now, apparently. It is a game where you side-scroll around as someone who has trouble sleeping? Someone help me out here.
Okay, so this is basically like one of those environmental narrative games, like think Gone Home or Dear Esther, only it's played entirely from a side view, with some very, very mild enemy avoidance elements. It's not a survival...
It's not...
Yeah, it's not a survival horror. There's just occasionally some enemies in your path that you have to avoid.
I wouldn't say it's that much like Gone Home. It's way too linear. You basically just kind of go from left to right. Maybe every once in a while... I get what you mean, though. Right. So, you're this guy from, I guess, the 1800s named Thomas, and you have a lot of nightmares, and every time you die or something weird happens, you wake up, and it turns out it's another nightmare, and it kind of just goes on like that forever.
So, for starters, I will say this much. The game looks, at least in the actual gameplay, really freaking cool with that black and white art style, the surprisingly well done symbol-based animation. Cutscenes tend to take a bit of a hit because of the more obvious limitations of the graphic engine, but I will at least say that when you're just playing, it looks pretty cool.
the game's art does kind of have that slightly schizophrenic, like drawn by a crazy person who's like just trying to scrabble down their dreams that they've just had kind of look that definitely works for it. I have seen, looking, at the game and stuff, that it does it does use like rulers and things. Like there are straight lines. It's not it is pretty like well handled in terms of art. It manages to look crazy and schizophrenic without being unreadable. So I gotta give props for that. There's also the fairly standard choice for it to be black and white, but with blood, because that's, gotta have that red.
And blondes in there for things you can interact with.
Which at least makes it quite a legible game. So it's got that going on.
But I think my biggest issue with this is that, as Bob Neal pointed out, there's not really a whole lot to it. It's just endlessly going from left to right.
I've described it as like the spookiest game of red light, green light I've ever played.
And while we say that, like the way the enemies work, because you said that there are obstacles that you have to face in this game, so it's not like
there's like a handful of enemies, each corresponding to one of the different area themes. So like in the first area, you have these giant mutated babies you have to hide in a closet from. Or in the asylum, there are these zombie patients who you have to walk by slowly, which actually isn't all that hard since the splinter meter runs out very, very quickly.
So it's the kind of game where if you get caught, you just die straight away. So that's,
right. But the checkpoints are very plentiful. You pretty much never lose much in the way of progress if you die.
So if you die, I just wanted to check. You said if you die, you go to a new nightmare. Is that true if you die in a non...
Not quite. Yeah. The idea is that bedrooms serve as checkpoints. If you enter one, and you'll probably enter one just exploring around and not give it much thought, but later it turns out that if you die, it's played as you waking up in one of these bedrooms, and the game continues normally.
Okay, so it's not like LSD, where you just keep bouncing from thing to thing.
No.
It is a very linear game, as you guys said.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is, like, why I said red light, green light is because getting past monsters is basically just getting near them, waiting for the point where you can walk past them, and just doing that over and over until the game says you're done. It's mostly just pattern recognition, just constantly.
And there are no puzzles to speak of. The closest is finding an at early on. Again, it's just taking an item to an already seen point where you have to use it. There are some story branches late in the game, but these are also not really puzzles. These are...
You guys are telling me that this has less puzzles than the Fantastic World of Mr. Izzy?
Not even that, because you don't have an inventory. You just kind of just hold whatever you find and just hold until you can use it.
Yep.
Well, that's riveting. So, what's the sound like in this game? Does it have any sort of atmosphere or music?
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, I didn't actually get to use it, but it even has a special headphone audio mix. I do have to admit the sounds of pained breathing if you sprint too long are actually pretty well done, even if they do get annoying after a while.
Yeah. I think your guy is asthma or something, because he can barely, like, move across a room without losing his breath.
Well, he hasn't slept in, like, 8 years or something. Leave him alone. What else do you guys have to say about this one? Like, did you enjoy the game? Because you guys have kind of walked around whether you like it or not.
I've been kind of being around the bush on this one because of the fact that I understand that this is a game that was very personal for the author, so it's kind of hard for me to judge it too critically, but I honestly didn't enjoy it that much.
Neither did I, to be honest. Like, I'll just be honest, modern horror games don't really do a lot for me. Like, there are a few jump scares in this game, and for the most part, they didn't really scare me all that much. It's like, I'm walking down a dark hallway, I wonder if something spooky will happen. I'm walking past a bunch
I actually found the art style kind of diluted the effect of the jump scares, because, like, okay, one that would normally get to me because of one of my own phobias was, the protagonist whips a string out of their arm, but it's such an obvious flash of vector effect, the string itself, that it kind of takes some of the fear factor away.
Right, so this game has some cool set pieces, and I think that it's an interesting game. When I saw this game originally, when it was announced, I thought, wow, that looks really interesting. Not necessarily good, just like it's kind of like it had like a different style to it that you didn't see that often. But this game does appear to have the same sort of style as I've seen a lot of Japanese indie sort of horror games and a few Western horror games that all have this 2D style where they just kind of, you walk backwards and forwards and you don't do all that much. And I think it's a shame that it looks like this one came pretty close to that.
There's just not all that much to it, really. That's the...
I am just like completely oblivion on this game. I don't really like it. I don't really hate it. It's just... I just don't really have any kind of thoughts about it at all.
Yeah, we kind of ran into this a little bit. We haven't had the most standout sort of selection of games for this particular episode, because we're doing Neverending Nightmares, and I know that we didn't feel super strongly about the next game we're going to talk about either. So I don't know, I really want to have some praise for this game, but I've read that people who kind of also suffered from similar elements and mental things that the creator of this game says they tried to put into the game have sort of said, well, I kind of feel like I have the same sort of business as this, but this game doesn't really get that across to me. I don't really feel like it's there, and I think that's a big problem with this one, is it's one in a long line of games where the creator has some really strong feelings or messages to get across, but their medium or design choices don't quite let them say that, so what you end up with is a game that's a little bit on the mediocre side, so you can't feel it.
To be clear, we're not trying to make light of any issues the author might have been suffering from. We definitely don't want to do that.
No, but I am saying, this is an instance where game design, or just design overall, has kind of dragged the game down from what it was intended to be, I guess. Is there anything that this game could have done in short order to fix itself in some form?
I think maybe offering a bit more in the way of actual gameplay content, like maybe some survival element or designed puzzles. The closest to a puzzle is one place where you have to do something not obvious to lure an enemy out of your way. And maybe more like that to keep the player engaged would have helped. But as it stands, it's kind of just repetitive and monotonous.
Because see, for my money, I've not really been a huge fan of 2D side-scrolling horror games. I find that they're very difficult to get right. Clock Tower did a good job, and I've played very few after it that I felt that stood out from the pack and really made me sort of go, wow, that was a good horror game. So, yeah, where are we gonna put this one?
I have an idea on where to rank this. What about near King's Quest V? Is that too low?
No, I don't think it's too low.
Okay, below King's Quest V, we have Hakoyo, King of Crusher, which is probably...
Hakoyo, actually.
Yes, sorry. I can't read, but... yes, so we have Hakoyo, King of Crusher, and that game, I think, is... Well, it has a lot to say about itself, in terms... We did a lot on that episode. We talked a lot about King of Crusher. I love that episode. That was a great episode, I think. And I think that one actually was more successful in getting across its, I guess, the authorial frustrations that they had, the sort of rage that they felt at their own sort of society.
Okay, so we should probably go below Hakoyo. I don't think you're going to let us put it above Shaq Fu. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I think Shaq Fu is a little bit similar. Just a little bit, in that it has a phenomenal sort of sense of art to itself. But it obviously falls quite short of the intention of the creators to be a good game or a game that has strong meaning, I think. I'm sure that Neverending Nightmares did resonate with people. Okay, well, a couple of steps down, we have Friday the 13th, and I'm just wondering, that was a shonky, proto-survival horror game.
I think it's better than Friday the 13th.
Do you think it's done a better job? I don't disagree with that.
This game is actually trying to make a statement. Friday the 13th basically just jump
scares. I was trying to make a statement
scares.
about how they wanted money from a movie tie-in. Did you get that?
So, what about between Space Quest and Friday the 13th? Space Quest Incinerations, sorry.
Yes, don't get us in trouble by putting to make it look like we got Space Quest down here next to Shaq Fu. Get a lot of angry messages if you did that, I feel.
Nobody's gave us any yet.
The podcast is young. I would say that Space Quest Incinerations does a better job of being a game in its genre. This one, it's not quite boring in the same way that this game might actually be.
I think I'd put above Space Quest Incinerations for at least having a better presentation. Like,
I guess
least the graphics are prettier.
The graphics are definitely pretty, but are we going to say that the pretty graphics make up for the gameplay kind of being a little stale?
I mean, it's also, like, I think you can beat it in the time it takes to complete Space Quest Incineration's intro.
Well, it's up to you guys. Bob, what do you think?
I would put it above Neverending Nightmares because at least this is kind of its own original product. I mean, I'm not saying anything against fan games that they're inherently inferior, but I mean, Space Quest Inspirations didn't really do a very good job at representing its source material, so...
Well, we'll definitely get blowback for that particular comment, but, okay, so I'm happy with that. We can put it above Space Quest Incinerations, and, I'm gonna keep it below Shaq Fu, unless you both immediately veto me on this one.
I don't have a strong opinion either way, though.
Alright, excellent. So, we're gonna put this one, the Neverending Nightmares, between Space Quest Incinerations and Shaq Fu. So it's gonna go right in the middle. Shaq Fu above it, and Space Quest Incinerations below. And I do hope that, people that like this game just continue to like it, because you don't have to like a game if you don't think it's great.
Unless it's chiller.
Hey everybody, just another special quick message, even quicker than the last, I hope. I promised my buddy Hawes Burkhart, who has a great Star Wars podcast called Blue Harvest. He's doing something called the Kessel Toy Run this year, and it's a holiday toy drive. The idea is to buy toys for kids who have to spend the holiday season in the hospital. Hawes had to do this for quite a while when he was a kid. He had some health problems that kept him in the hospital a lot, and so he knows how much these kids appreciate it. But you can go to @KesselToyRun on Twitter, KESSEL, and find all the details. But basically, they've got an Amazon wish list, and you buy something off the list and have it shipped to the appropriate address, and it all gets collected. You follow that Twitter handle, and you'll see all the great stuff that people are getting for the kiddos. And it means a lot to my buddy Hawes, and it means a lot to me, and it's going to mean a lot to a lot of kids out there who could really, use a break. So give a hoot.
In the year 2027, the American Congress passes a poorly worded bill that inadvertently renders all video games illegal. Within 3 days, the entirety of the United States of America collapses into a post-apocalyptic hellscape. But for those of you lucky enough to live in the past, there's
still time to donate to the Hardcore Gaming 101 Patreon. So give now, and ensure that the only thing keeping you awake late at night
is the ever-present threat of Mecha Hitler's cybernetic human extermination squads.
It's nice to have peace of mind. And our next game up on the list is Deathrap Dungeon. It was published by Eidos Interactive and developed by Did I do that backwards? Do we normally do developed and published? I think we do. I'm gonna flip that. Also, it says that it was developed by Eidos and Asylum Studios. Did Asylum Studios do the port or something? Does anyone have any idea?
I don't actually know. I thought it was Asylum who did the developing, but I could be wrong.
Okay, maybe Eidos did the port. Alright, I'll say that then. It was developed by Asylum Studios, and I think the porting of the game to a different platform might have been done by Eidos, but we'll get to that. And it was published by Eidos? How would you guys want to pronounce that?
I always go with Eidos, personally.
I think it's Eidos, but I could be wrong.
Eidos be Apple Macintosh compatible?
Eidos.
Yeah. Okay. And it was first released in the 19th of March, 1998, we think. Probably on the PC. This game had a PlayStation version as well, which was actually somewhat different, which is surprising, and not just it's got crappy graphics or something. And you might have noticed we have added a member to our party for this one. We found him running around in the dungeon, so welcome to Clade, who is kind enough to join us.
Well, hello.
We don't know where he found that chainmail bikini, but it looks rather fetching.
Well, thank you, Bob. I was waiting for somebody to tell me that.
And this is the not particularly famous... I mean, you guys, I'd never heard of the Deathrap Dungeon series of like books from Ian Livingstone, you know, whatever, like the
series is called Fighting Fantasy.
The series is called Fighting Fantasy. This is one of the books, and someone at Eidos got their hands on it and went, "Hey, this would make a great video game. It's about people, and they go through a dungeon, and then they win money." Apparently,
I think it's
my research tells me from a friend of mine who said that you win 10,000 gold pieces if you finish the dungeon in the book. You don't win a room full of money and women, which I guess is fine. That's all right. Yeah. So this one. You are one of two different professional adventurers who decide to enter the Deathrap dungeon in order to win an unlimited supply of booty, and from the Estuan Sukhumvit, Baron Sukhumvit, and there's not really any more plot than that. Apparently he's just an asshole who built a dungeon to kill people, and no one thought to stop him while he was doing it, and it's full of monsters.
For you.
Yes?
Apparently, if I understand of the books, he's actually a bit less of an asshole in them, but...
He's definitely an asshole in this. Yeah. I believe, spoilers, I think he might even be the last boss in this, I think.
Yeah, they kind of gridded this game up pretty hard. They kind of, it's very kind of... I mean, if you look at the advertising, they definitely try to play the sex...
Yeah, the advertising is not gritty. It is just, hey, breasts, right? Oh boy, we're not. Maybe we can edit in a couple of the ads they released for this game, but it is just. What is the name of the lady? Sonia something or something Sonia. Red Sonia, Black Sonia, Lotus Sonia.
Red Lotus.
Red Lotus.
Red Lotus.
I got the other one. I got the one.
Red Lotus.
Yeah, the game shouts at you.
Yeah. I missed that the first time I was playing it, and then all of a sudden I was like, I came back, it's like, oh, I should see if the woman's any different. And then it's like, Red Lotus! I'm like, whoa, okay.
But what does it shout at you for the boy? Because you can also play as a boy.
Chain Dog. He's the default, so that's why I didn't notice.
Chain Dog.
The game
yeah.
Chain Dog. Yeah.
And he wears clothes, she does not. It doesn't affect the way that the game plays, I don't think, really. I think that they play mostly the same.
Not that I could tell. They all had the same weapons.
So,
and I didn't feel...
First thing to really know about the game is that it's basically Tomb Raider with a sword.
Yeah.
It's not really as good as Tomb Raider.
That's what I was going to ask you
guys. For one thing.
I haven't played Tomb Raider in almost 15 years. Did Tomb Raider have a fixed camera, or could you change it?
I'm pretty sure it was fit last time I gave it a shot. I also remember it playing just a bit more smoothly than this, possibly because of the ranged combat. This particular engine just wasn't meant for swordplay.
They both have that same chunky movement to them, where everything feels very deliberate, but also slightly floaty. It's
a little bit like Flashback in 3D.
Yeah, I genuinely think that this one... Well, is it Flashback in 3D? Isn't that Fade to Black?
Yeah, but I mean, like, that general sort of platform.
The best game to compare to.
I definitely think this one, and Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider, and a couple of its sequels are very much basically cinematic platformers taken into 3D, and...
At the very least, I'm pretty sure this game is better than Prince of Persia 3D.
Oh yeah, this one is amazingly good at being mediocre. And before I rip into it in any way, I do want to say I do actually really like that this game has this unusual cinematic platformer feel to it, because this kind of platformer died off pretty savagely, and it still hasn't come back. We've moved to games that aren't even platformers at all. You know, like the new Tomb Raider has barely any platforming as such, and You can get there's a resurgence of platformers in the sense like they've made some collectathons, and there's still plenty of like crappy Sonic games. There's a really great Mario game that just came out, but this specific genre of slightly realistic but not quite because your character backflips like 3 feet in the air kind of game, it doesn't exist at the moment. So it's kind of neat to go and play that game right now, even if this one's not
I was
the best.
Thinking about that while playing it, and all I kept thinking was they just don't make games like this anymore. Mostly between
they don't.
the gore and the TNA, but no, like just wandering around blind corners, and because I actually grew up with this game. Fun fact. This was like
PC version.
This game was a game that I almost played as a child. I didn't play it very much. One of the local rental, like VHS video rental stores or whatever you'd like to call them. I had a copy of this game and I rented it, and I was so freaked out by the intro and the description of the monsters in the little bestiary guidebook. I did not get far. I was just like, oh my god! I was like 11 or 12, and I ended up with this game, and I was just like,
man,
I was really
like
freaked
9,
out by this game.
And I saw this because I think I had the big box PC too, and it had this skull on it, and I looked on the back, and it looked like all the D&D stuff. I'm like, oh hell yeah! I bought it.
Yeah, I was like, it was very, because it's a very oppressive game, especially on the PlayStation, because the draw distance is quite.
See, I never played that before. Just learn.
Hell, yeah, the draw distance is shorter.
The boss is a little bit easier than the PC version because I kind of noticed the enemies seem to be much less aggressive than they are on PC.
They're very aggressive in the PC version. You'll almost always lose a little bit of health in a combat session.
I'm not a programmer.
Especially since the.
I'm not a programmer, but I'm pretty sure the AI just says "see player, attack player." All of them.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay because the combat's pretty much like hold down a button and just kind of just swing until everything in front of you.
Well, sometimes they'll mock you, which I really like.
The combat doesn't work like how you might expect if you've played other hack and slash games. There isn't an attack button per se, rather you hold down the attack button and use the movement keys to change how you swing.
Yes, amazingly, it uses the 8-bit microcomputer style of input, where you hold down the button and just press directions.
I'm glad
which is really interesting.
Somebody else realized that, because I completely forgotten about that when I was a kid, and I kept pushing the attack button, wondering why I got murdered by these stupid little giggling imps. It took me 10 minutes to remember how to play the game again.
Yeah, holding right gives you a wide-ranged swing. Holding the left will make you perform rapid thrusts. Holding forward is an overhead power attack, and in the PlayStation version exclusively, holding down will actually have you attack backwards.
How do you block in the PlayStation? Do you just hold the attack button?
It's a map to another button.
Okay, because yes, in the PC version you have to hold back, which it's one of those things that makes perfect sense, but when you try and actually do it, your fingers keep messing you up, because you're just like, how do I block? Alright, I gotta hold back. How do I attack? Wait, I gotta hold forward, of course, but how do I block again? I don't know, I got very mixed up in this game constantly.
I did not like the blocking mechanism that much, because it's not very responsive. I actually had more luck just blindly attacking and having enemies occasionally parried by my attacks. I'm not entirely sure how that works.
I think it's just some enemies can be parried when they attack. There is some semblance, and I know this at least in the PC version, there is some semblance of damage based on areas, because like with the clowns, you can hack their limbs off as your like final attack. Like if you kill them by hacking up one of their legs, their leg will fall off, specifically the leg that you hit. And characters can be decapitated if you hit their head with the killing blow, and I think it may actually do more damage if you land a particular blow on a head. I think it actually does more damage.
The weird thing I found about the PlayStation version is that actually, while it loses those gnarly damage decals for the player character, it's surprisingly more bloody in some ways than the PC version. Like, I do not recall when I was playing the PC version where the walls and ceiling will get splattered.
Oh, they do.
They will, but not very much. It's like, there'll be like a small, slightly larger than a limb-sized blood splatter. I didn't play the PlayStation version for this recording, so I don't know if that had like pools and splashes and particles everywhere, because there aren't that many in the PC version. It's actually a little dry. surprisingly, for something called... I mean, it's not too surprising, because it was just before games could really do multiple textures on the same kind of spot, so everything is a little bit clean. The tiles are clean.
I was thinking that.
It mentioned that because one thing that really stands out to me is that this was a game that came out in 1998, and it looks like maybe 2 years older than it really is.
Yeah, in 1996, this game would have been like, yeah, this is cutting-edge stuff! And 1998, it's really a case of, that's it? That's all you got here? Wow, alright, well, let's get to it, I guess.
And then a level later, you're like, nah, that's it, I see it, we're done.
Given the source material, I'm kind of surprised they went with a action platformer instead of like a dungeon crawler RPG.
It has slight elements of dungeon crawling in it, which I actually really like.
It's a very loose adaptation. Like, you could name this game anything, and you'd never be able to tell.
Yeah, so I've got since we've kind of got a crosshair, I can say that from what I had been told by a good friend of mine, the book has less combat, quite obviously. There's way more death traps and puzzles in the book, and if you, I believe that this doesn't happen in the game, but throughout the book you actually have to collect some gems, and if you don't get these gems, you'll actually lose the book. I think towards the end of the book you'll actually straight up lose.
For people who aren't very familiar with this series, basically it's a choose-your-own adventure with RPG stats, and this computer game version is nothing like that in terms of...
Not really, but I want to point out that this kind of book was quite popular, and it was quite popular in Japan, too. So the original book, I think, would have had influence on Japanese developers. This is way back in the 80s, alright. Fighting Fantasy is popular in Japan, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's... They've been porting... Actually, there's a port of the original Fighting Fantasy book now on mobile devices, because they've been porting all those to like PSP and then phones later on. So
I think that's really interesting, is you have basically a Western spin on an 80s book series that feels incredibly 1990 late-ish Western PC. Like, this is nothing like any of the book stuff. And I think it's almost a good thing, because wow, the death traps in this game, are they annoying? Oh, it's the amount of times that you will round a corner or flip a switch, and then the game will be like, "Ha! You're dead!" It's like, oh, wow, that was clever, wasn't it? I got fooled!
Sounds like the books.
Yeah, it's... I know we'll have to inevitably say this. I know Gunhart maybe has some strong points against this, but here it comes, and it's this thing definitely, in some ways, feels proto the Souls games in the way it throws just kind of like crap at you that you kind of needed to know before you were in that situation to avoid that situation. But whereas obviously Souls has, the web stuff and a lot of like pseudo community thing, this game is just like, if you walk down this corridor, a giant machine will burst through the wall and kill you. And you're just like, what?
Oh yeah, no, that's old school RPGs. Let me tell you about the super tetanus in old D&D. Not even kidding. That's a real trap. It gives you super tetanus.
There is something about you mentioned the intro earlier, and that is actually something that's really annoyed me, is the way it actually has a bit of misinformation in it. The fact that the war pig, or whatever it was called, is shown as an obstacle that blows up the hapless adventurer. But it's actually an item in the game, so every time I saw it at first, I'd run from it thinking it was a trap.
I mean, that's fair. The game did lie to you. But I will say that in the game's mild defense, the character in the intro is portrayed and stated to basically be a complete moron. So he is not good to take advice from. But yeah, that I agree with that intro. That I like that intro because it's... Oh boy,
it's definitely like a cheesy arcade attract mode. I love it.
I love that specific FMV intros to games. Oh, I love those so much. They're almost my favorite like 90s trope. Is just that sort
and
of
they gotta be extra long so that you're not upset if there's nowhere cutscenes during the game itself.
And there aren't, right? This game is just one long slog. I think Clade probably got the furthest. It is just one... just endless, like, a marathon. You do get to save, and in the PC version, you have spots where you can save. I think that's the same on consoles. But, wow, it's just... nothing happens. You just... keep going, and you just keep getting your ass beat
and
for...
all of the flavor text is basically like a Game Pro strategy guide.
It's also kind of useless, because it's just like, in this there are clowns, and they're evil, and they'll kill you, and watch out for the killer clowns of killing you! It's like, thanks, I'll do that.
But you know what? I'll give the game this, they really do look like clowns.
And they act like them, too. They laugh at you. They'll dance around. They won't always attack you. Sometimes they'll just mock you. It's and there's a lot of enemies. A lot of like the clowns have like 4 or 5 different textures and a few different model variations.
Yeah, no, I mean I can't get over. I mean, it might be because I've been playing a lot of DOS games recently. You know, like say the Gold Box games, but this game looks really good. I don't know necessarily for 1998. I've established long in the past that I've been playing games way out of order for many years now.
To put things in perspective, this was the same year Soul Reaver came out.
Was it the same year or just a little bit before? I thought Soul Reaver came out the year after.
No, the Dreamcast ports did, but the original Soul Reaver came out in 98.
Yeah, so... I mean, I definitely would not say this game looks cutting edge for its time, but it does have some nice bits. I think the PlayStation has these as well. It's got really decent lighting.
Actually, you would track that. It was 99, sorry.
Alright.
Sorry.
No problem. So, but a year later you had Soul Reaver, which was absolutely very, very impressive for the PlayStation, and this is not very impressive. I think Metal Gear Solid was 99 as well, wasn't it? Or was it 98? I thought it was 99. Someone check Metal Gear Solid, because I know that was another, wow, this is a good-looking real-time 3D game, but, so what I think...
this was the same year that Spyro came out on the PlayStation.
Spyro! Oh, that was a good-looking game. Let's talk about... No, we can't talk about Spyro. We're not even allowed to, because no one's nominated Spyro, ever. They don't. Right? We haven't had Spyro nominated, I think, to date, which is a bit of a shame, but... But the bestiary in this game is really, really great. It's like, I think it's like 40 or 50 like monsters in this game, which I think is where they put most of their effort, to be perfectly honest, was just lots of varied enemies. This game has got big areas with lots of enemies through the game, and it shows if you can actually stomach the game long enough, which I'll agree that you probably It's not easy to get through it that far, but it will keep throwing new enemies at you. Your reward for getting through this game is not more story, it's not more characterization, it's not even the...
better gameplay.
No, it's not the gameplay, and I was actually going to say, despite what you would expect, no, she doesn't actually get her breasts out. They tried to. If you see beta shots for this game, it is probably the most tasteless and offensive costume I think a character has ever been put into for a video game.
I wonder who it was who told him to tone
yeah, it was so bad that they were told to tone it down, or I think the game was going to get an R or an AO, and it was just like, wow, guys, she's an adventurer fighting against a bunch of monsters. Give her at least an outfit a little bit.
I asked that too when she's like, and they prepare for adventure, and she zips up her cat suit. I'm like, you want to try that one more time? Prepares for what?
And, I'm not opposed, but the game is a brutal game, so I would appreciate, at least something a little bit, go look at the, don't get mad at me, go look at the early screenshots for this game, and you'll be like, alright, that was probably a little far, that was, okay, that was fair, they shouldn't have done that.
I've never seen
but, I'll tell you what she's wearing, alright, I'll break it all, I'll tell you what she's wearing. She's basically wearing a chain. Just a chain, chain link, like one of those chain link lock fence things. She's just draped that over her chest. That's it. Just one single chain.
I see that now. That's
question mark on that one. It is less than a chainmail bikini, which is incredible in its way that they thought they were gonna sell a game with that on the box. Whatever. Look, the important thing where I've gotten way off the course here, is that the game only gives you new stuff. That's all it does to keep you playing. New enemies, new death traps. The environments do technically change, but it's basically like, this is dungeon. This is slightly different dungeon. This is the better looking, like, plush dungeon. Deluxe dungeon.
And I'll admit, the gameplay is probably the biggest obstacle with enjoying all of the monsters, because, like, without any really fun in the way to fight them, what's even the point?
And you'll get killed a lot. Sometimes, look, I won't get too harsh on the game over this specific detail, but yeah, sometimes the camera will just be like, I'm going for a spin, here we go, whoa!
You know what I really enjoyed about this game?
What did you enjoy about this game, Bob?
You start at a level, like, first room you enter, there are, like, 2 enemies roaming around the room that will basically instantly kill you if you get near them. And if you die, you go back to the last level you were in, because the game does not save between levels.
Right, so the PlayStation version does not save between levels. The PC version does, weirdly enough.
Yeah, as I say.
So there were many changes between the two. I believe levels were cut, and there were levels that were remixed for the PlayStation version, which is kind of neat, I think.
The entire first level looks absolutely nothing like the one on PC. I'm not sure if it's on the later PC levels, but there's even this room where you have to ride moving platforms up into the air, and a whole sequence where you have to scour the area for tree switches to open the way forward.
So that's kind of neat. There's this whole other, like, if you really like the game, you have a whole second game to play that's slightly different. Isn't that great? I guess for Clade, because Clade genuinely enjoyed this one. I really wanted to enjoy this one, but it's just...
I don't know if I ever said that.
He volunteered. This guy volunteered to be here to not say mean things.
I volunteered to say things.
Oh, well, sorry about...
Should we...
Yeah, we're gonna have to rank this one, and...
Alright, then I've got the perfect starting point, I think. What about the realm of Rising Zen? That or janky or the person PlayStation title?
Yeah,
I would put it below Rising Zen. I've actually had fun with Rising Zen.
Is that the samurai game you guys played on stream?
Yeah, Rising Zen.
Samurai. That game was sweet.
Man, Johnny, no more.
I mean, purely for the amount of fun that game had, like, exuded even in the intro, it's definitely at least marginally better. Because I'm
thinking, like, maybe below Hexen 2, or maybe above Hexen 2. What do you think?
You guys just find whatever the middle number on your guys' list is so far, and just put it right there, because it's not a terrible game, it's not a good game.
I'm not putting this above Riven, the sequel to Myst. There's no way! No way! I mean...
Okay, fine, we can put it below Riven.
This game tried, but Riven tried harder. I actually kind of feel bad for the dev team a little bit, because I got to assume they wanted to make they wanted to make, like, Tomb Raider in a dungeon, I think, is what they wanted. They really tried for that, and there's some cool stuff that I just wanted to quickly mention, that enemies actually have vulnerabilities and stuff, which is a little D&D-ish, I think, which is kind of neat.
And I was going to try to say, too, the reason that you have the directional is they can parry, like the Medusa, or what are they called? Lamias, the snake women. Like, I was noticing if I tried attacking them from one side, it kept clinging off them, so I had to attack from the other side. There's a lot of neat ideas in this game, a lot of stuff that I don't know how 98 really looked for even, like, say, mechanics. But, I mean, the fact that every level looks different, I think, is something that should be said about this game, certainly.
I think the coolest part about this game is it is one of these special games that is, I believe, less than the sum of its parts. Yeah. When you put it all together, it stops being as good as it should be in this bizarre way, which is interesting.
I want that on the cover. Less than the sum of its parts. A lot of really awesome parts.
Because you hacked them all off.
In its neat little trapezoidal box. I love the trapezoid boxes. They're so stupid, and you can't stack them, and you can't put them side by side, and everyone hates them.
I never had that one.
Look, I've got that one. I got a bunch of them. And I mean a bunch of copies of Deathrap Dungeon. I actually have like 4 copies of Deathrap Dungeon. Don't ask me about it. I won't tell you. But yeah, I have several copies of Deathrap Dungeon. Let's look at Altered Beast. Because I want to talk about Altered Beast compared to this game.
I was going to just say, I was thinking between Altered Beast and Hexen 2.
Yeah, see, that's what I think. I think that Altered Beast is just a little bit more upfront about what's fun about it. You know, it's not great, but you get to turn into a wolfman and a dragon person. If you could turn into a wolfman or a wolf girl or woman or whatever in this game, I would put it above Altered Beast, but you can't, so...
See, that, I think you're right. That's the problem with Deathrap Dungeon. It doesn't have anything really cool about it.
No, you're just some person and your magic's lame, so let's slam it in at number... it'll be 95 now, I believe. Get it in at 95. Yes. 195. If I said that wrong, 195. Not 95. Never put this one in 95. It's 195 between Altered Beast and Hexen 2. Anyone want to send off Deathrap Dungeon?
It has some really cool burning textures.
I think maybe if it had a simpler combat scheme, something that something a little bit closer to the auto lock-on of Tomb Raider, it might have been a bit more fun, but the controls are just too fiddly to make the combating a bit
I think this game has a soft lock-on, though. I don't want to... This is kind of a weird place to mention it, but I think it does.
I don't mean, like, in the sense... Not in the sense of it's... I mean, like, it's almost impossible to actually move and fight at the same time as well. So.
This game needs a remake. That's what it needs. This game could be a wonderful game with a remake.
That's what I was thinking the whole time playing it. But then I asked myself, would I like it as much, though, if it got remade? But yeah, no, I think the best way to put it is a game that is lesser for the sum of its parts, and it has nothing special about it, except for some really neat paintings in that second level.
Yeah, I love those paintings. You got, like, Angry Satan, you got Dinosaur on, like, a ball, shouting clowns. It's a weird little game. Boy, that sure was a great discussion on games that we talked about today. And if you want to hear more discussions about games that we also talked about today and on a different day, you should contribute to the Hardcore Gaming 101 Patreon. If you give a little, I think it's $2 a month, you will get access to additional game rankings for the show. And also, on other levels, you'll get access to some of HD 101's books. And there's some more coming out, so it's always a good idea to jump on in. And I know some people have been concerned that it's too expensive or something to get access to these episodes. We're sorry about that, I guess. But if you do pay the $2, you get access to all of the previous rankings. It's not just the ones from, this month or this week. You can go back and download all of them as far as more. Is that correct? Can someone confirm that?
Pretty sure that's how it works.
Good enough for me. That's all for this episode of Hardcore Gaming 101's Top Games Podcast. Special thanks goes out to Atlantean Goldfish?
Atlantean, I think.
Oh. Alright, Atlantean Goldfish on Patreon, and Sake Yoko on iTunes, for nominating those games, and thanks to those of you we didn't get to yet, we will be getting to you soon. Thanks as well to my lovely co-hosts and compatriots, our editor and booking agent Jeff Rudd, our theme song composer Muteki, our technical assistant, video editor, and scriptwriter Bobinator, and of course, the support and feedback of listeners like you. You can support this podcast by making a small monthly donation at patreon.com/HD101. By subscribing to the HD101 YouTube channel, and by following at GC9X and at HD_101 on Twitter. You can also hang out with us on Discord at bit.ly/HDDiscord. But most importantly, help us explore our way into the podcasting firmament by getting on iTunes, subscribing to HD1, and giving us a 5-star review. Do it, or you'll be condemned to the never-ending death trap of Nightmares Dungeon.